I hadn't expected Kolkata the way it was. I had expected it more like perhaps a town. The first impression is, of course, the city, the sounds, the smells, the heat. There were cows on the road. There were these hand-drawn carts made of bamboo and huge loads on it. So the traffic was chaos, full of people, full of cars, full of cows, full of everything. People either love it or they absolutely hate it, and there's not much in between.
That's Erica Grandage. I call her Erica Auntie. So do all my friends. My name's Nikhat Khatun, by the way. Hello again. She arrived more than 30 years ago, long before I was born, starting as a Future Hope volunteer.
Erica was meant to be here for 3 months, but now she's been here forever.
And that's the man we call Tim Uncle, Tim Grandage. Together, they're a brilliant team. But as we continue this remarkable story, there's a mystery figure we haven't met yet. Was the team a duo or was the team a trio?
Yes, they were the guiding force. They were volunteers, yes. In the earlier years, yes, we were definitely a three.
He was so important in the Future Hope early years, clearly remembering the children, their poor health, the shocking conditions he discovered back in the early 90s.
The thing that I remember most of all about Kolkata and that work is the smell. You've never smelt it in your life before, and yet you know exactly what it is. Everything from death onwards. It's the smell of the stations, of human detritus almost. And it's strong and you never forget it.
He'll also never forget the impact Erica made, transforming healthcare at Future Hope. That's what this episode is all about.
Yeah, you see, the funny thing with me is, of course, that I came as a volunteer. Although I came out as a nurse, there was nothing. I can't even remember if we had a thermometer. If we had one, I probably had my own. But I started to give more formality to a medical, wasn't quite a medical department, call it a medical room. So it became a little bit more formalized than the first initial total chaos. The heart of Future Hope is providing hope and opportunity for children. You first have to take children off the streets and provide them with a safe place to stay, with nutrition, with healthcare. Future Hope is definitely still required. You see very scarred children, you see children who have very traumatic backgrounds, whether they are verbally abused, sexually abused, physically abused, whether there are parents who are caring but cannot cope with a medical situation. We've seen this many times. Children are not going to school and they are 10 years old. And if you then look at the problems that children face now and what they were facing 30 years, they're still there, and there's still a lot of street children or children in the slums who need Future Hope.
Here's Future Hope CEO Sujata Sen.
Erica contributes to a very, very vital functioning of Future Hope, and that's our medical work. I'm Sujata Sen. I'm CEO of Future Hope. We have a very good medical team here with 2 doctors, 2 nurses, a medical assistant, and a good functioning medical unit with all the data of all the children from the moment they come into Future Hope. And when they leave, it may be 22 years, 23 years, whenever they leave, the whole journey that they are with us, we have their medical records. We also have doctors who support Future Hope from outside India, from the UK. So that makes it a very good, strong medical team.
So let's go into the medical room and I will introduce you to the medical staff. Good morning, Viraf.
Good morning.
This is Viraf, and Viraf is the medical administrator in charge of all the logistics for our children, from keeping the records to taking them to hospitals, to make appointments, take them to doctors. Viraf.
Welcome to the medical room. Erica and I have been working together since it started It's a very hectic job in the medical room from the time school starts.
When they come to us, they don't know how to use a proper toilet because they go either in a hole in the ground,
On the ground, yes.
or in the drain. Very basics that you have to teach them. When they come in with, particularly if they come from very, very poor backgrounds, they can come in with scabies, they come in with boils, there's pus, there's infections. That can lead to things like rheumatic fever, which needs a long-term treatment. When I first started, we had children with venereal disease, we had children with huge cuts, burns, severe burns.
Malnutrition, things like that, they come from a very poor background.
We have grown from 150, 100 children. Now we are looking after day-to-day 500, over 500 youth. But then if we get the siblings and the staff and the people who need a bit of help, I would say in a year we could happily look after 1,000 people.
We are extending our help to the family members when they come to us for any help. We are helping them out with their medicines, things like that. Because very often they're very poor, they cannot afford medicines. If they come with a prescription, they say, "Sir, we require these medicines, can you help us out?" I personally feel it's amazing. I came from a multinational company. When I initially came here, it was a totally new experience for me. The satisfaction which I got working here was totally different. At the end of the day, when I would go home, it was like I've done something with my life. Even today when I go home, my phone is on 24/7. I get calls in the middle of the night even, and I gladly take it. A house parent phones me or a child's parent phones me, and I gladly take it because it's the satisfaction which I get to answer those calls. That thing that I am doing something with my life.
Future hope appears in more than capable hands and at the center of everything we do. The students, young people like Ritu.
Only I have came here for 5 to 7 months. I am in another home. From there I have transferred in Future Hope and now I'm here. It's a good place. It gives us opportunities. They guide us very well and I cannot explain how good Future Hope is. I don't have any dream because India have now so many of businesses like makeups, cosmetics. They have all type of businesses. So I'm thinking, what should I do that my products will be like high level products. I want to be one of them. When I will be a businesswoman, I have think that if I have so much of monies, so I want to help the people who are sitting beside the roads and they were begging. When the rain falls in them, they were sick too much, they are dying. So I want to help them. You will see so much of people just sitting in the streets. Very bad thing because we have shelter also, but they don't have anything to go home or anything, eat food. They cannot eat also. So I want to help them. Now in SST, in history, we have learned one chapter about gender prejudice. The families go to a doctor and they want to see that there is a boy child or a girl child. And if there is girl child, they used to give medicines to that girl or anything operation and that baby was dying. If there is boy, they were very happy. But why is that happening in our society? But it is happening now also in the villages. That is also happening, that type of things.
What else are you passionate about?
I want to help the poor people. I'm very sad about them. When I go to school, I see some beggars are sitting beside, but we can't do anything because we don't have any money. But if I have any food, in Howrah station I have came and I have seen one small baby in their hand. I have said, did she ate anything from the morning? They said, no, we don't have anything to give her. So I have my cakes and biscuits, I have all gave them and they were very happy. They blessed me. I'm very happy for that. That is very good to help them because if one of our family members are there, so what we will do? We also help them, na? So we have to see like that only.
India is a non-poor country with a lot of poor people who do not have access to modern education or even modern healthcare. So if you go to a school and look at the assessment levels, the results of a class 5 student, you might find that their learning ability is at a class 3 level, 2 or 3 notches below. So that's something we need to look at. There also is a lot of new hospitals. India is into medical tourism. A lot of people come from outside and say, we'll get our healthcare done in India because it's cheaper, it's more efficient, it's much better. That's one side of the story. But the other side of the story is also a lot of people who, even though they have the government insurance cards, are unable to use it because of their own inability or illiteracy to be able to go and say that I have this right.
Back in the medical unit, our tour continues.
And this is one of our volunteers, Piyusha.
Yeah, I just graduated college and I'm here for a year. I'm teaching chemistry right now because they don't have a chemistry teacher, and then I'm also helping in the medical room in the afternoons.
Which is wonderful for us to have local volunteers who can just help with the workload, but also just add value and come with new ideas.
Erica keeps an hawk's eye on every child's medical detail, and she'll look at her computer and she'll say, okay, this follow-up was required, but you need to do this. So things are popping up on her screen all the time for medical follow-up, and that makes our medical work really unique, really different.
In 2021, we were approached by dentist friends who suggested that if we provided the facility, they would come and do the screening and the treatment on site. Come and have a look. We walk through here, and this is Evelina.
So when they are coming for follow-up, there is a huge difference. These things are improving.
And every 6 months, isn't it?
Yes, every 6 months is standard. Yes, that is a standard.
But we shouldn't disturb you any further. But thank you so much. Your teeth are good? You miss a few. Very good. By having the dentist and just a tiny little space here, what is it, 3 by 3 room for the doctor, the medical administrator and the nurse, we are very stretched. We have a new design in the new school, which will be enormously helpful, because to run a clinic for 500 in-house and many hundreds more from this space is getting very cramped and difficult. So to take it a step back, when I first came to Future Hope, there was nothing. There were no records. The children, if they had a temperature or if Tim felt worried about them, he would put them in the back of the car and he would drive them around town until he found a doctor who would be prepared to look at them. When I came, I had a very defined role to look after the medical needs of the children. And one of the first things I did was to start a ledger, and each child, I think I had the first 20, then 50, they just had a page, and I just kept on writing in there when they came into the medical room, what they were treated for, what their problems were.
With Erica taking us back to the start of Future Hope, it feels like the perfect time to introduce our mystery man. It was just Tim and Erica back then. Or was it?
Was there a third person?
Yeah, me. My name is Martin Graham. We worked with Tim out in Future Hope in the 90s. I arrived on the 29th of December 1991. I flew into Kolkata with a view to volunteer, but also I had that place at Shanti Niketan, Rabindranath Tagore's university, to study Hindu philosophy, a year's foundation course. So I'd gone out to sort of volunteer for 6 months or so before that course started. But in fact, I never made it, because it was so obvious that there was a lot of things to do and nowhere near enough time to do it. Within my arriving in Kolkata and staying in the Surya building flat, we went from 10 to 20, 25 kids in a matter of weeks. And oh boy, we had a lot of late nights and a lot of hard work. And I mean, at the end of the day, we were picking children up off the street and putting them in a car and taking them off. I mean, there were some stories in the earlier days where Some of the kids thought, you were being shipped, sold overseas or, chopped up and eaten. But then as the children saw us more and more, then the kids actually became part of the sort of welfare, because they would take us and say, listen, you've got to go to platform 11. There's a really sick kid on there. He needs your help or she needs your help. She's just arrived. She's literally been here 24 hours. Please take her off the station. So we would have situations like that. There are gangs, there are hierarchies, there's a whole ecosystem on the stations. And street kids are part of it and controlled by it. I mean, I don't know what percentage it is, but it wouldn't surprise me if, 90% of the children have been abused. I mean, it sounds awful, but it's within their experience of living on the street and in stations, that is normal. Tim and I had gone out to Sealda, and it was, 1, 2 in the morning, usual thing, and, there's hundreds of people sleeping outside, and we were walking along, and then suddenly there was this really bad smell. And when you've been around in that sort of world, you come to recognise, what it is. It's an STD. And we identified this little girl who was asleep between 2 adult men. And, that was clearly the source of the smell and the problem. So we sort of went off and were trying to decide, what to do. And I think we actually drove back to the flat to go and get one of our Bengali staff, who's a guy called Tony. When we were driving back to Sealda, I think, we then noticed there was a child sitting just outside the station on the edge of the pavement. And he was sort of rocking backwards and forwards, which is a sign of a child, with some sort of mentally challenged issue. So, again, we stopped. And then we went back to the station, and Tony went up, and somehow, he was brilliant, Tony. Sadly, he's now dead. But he managed to get the child out between these 2 guys and into the car. But that wasn't the end of the surprises, because when we got back to the flat, we discovered that the little boy was actually a little girl, and the little girl was actually a little boy. And Erica swung to action, and he had this terrible STD and basically syphilis and whatever, and she treated him for quite a number of weeks, because it was quite a serious issue, and you have to go into very heavy antibiotics and so on. What's also actually interesting from that same case is the little girl, who turned out to be a boy, he grew up with no kind of, or not that we were ever able to detect or determine, no kind of social stigma or psychological issues, despite the fact that he'd obviously been raped many, many times, because within his context, that wasn't abnormal. Well, that's how we've always sort of rationalised it. Therefore, he didn't feel bad about it, if that almost makes sense. It's what happened, pass the salt, do you want a packet of crisps, Oh, he was small, they were both 8 or 10, something like that, some age like that. You actually become very neutral about it. You don't overreact to it, neither Tim nor I nor Erica. We never sort of broke down in floods of tears and were deeply traumatized by these. They were problems. They were children who needed to be helped. And so you just helped them if you could. It was all very matter of fact. Maybe sounds a bit boring, but I remember sometimes some ex-colleagues from HSBC would come out and they would get in contact, and then when they'd actually arrive, they wouldn't actually contact us. And then, we would all sort of wonder why. I think sometimes they sort of thought that, we were these sort of saints that walked around in sackcloth or something. And, we were just completely ordinary people who were just in a position at that time to help people who needed to be helped.
In my eyes, there is nothing ordinary about Martin or Tim or Erica. They are extraordinary. And so too are all the staff of Future Hope. Let's head back into the medical room.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning.
I was
Dr.
calling
Sarkar.
Viraf. You're not picking up the phone. I call Ashima. Good morning. Good morning. Erica, so nice to see you.
Dr. Sarkar, we have been working together for the last...
I've lost count.
over for 25 years.
For 25
Let's
years,
put it
yeah.
such. So Dr. Sarkar knows every child.
More or less,
At
the back of my hand.
Future
See, there's a medical part to it, the human part to it. The long-term approach part to it, Erica and Mia, the dedication is fantabulous. I've never seen so much dedication, I was amazed. I've been working as a doctor for the last 40 years now. First of all, when the children come in, we screen them to find out how they are, how the conditions are, body height, weight. And then, see the skin for any skin disease or whatever it is. Because, hygiene is at a very low level sometimes. Some we don't know, so we start the whole thing afresh from that age onwards, whatever is possible. We have taken under our wings small boys and girls from 4.5 years of age. Some of them have been physically abused, mentally abused, psychologically abused by parents, by siblings, by people on the footpath and whatever it is. But now, here they have a home, they have got their self-respect, they have their own identity. They look forward to become a better person. They always think they want to be something, which is very important. Then everybody is stable. When I've seen them transform from that to that journey is amazing.
In this room, a few days ago, was one of the little girls brought from Shialda station, malnourished and exhausted. She needed sleep, lots of it. So what happened since their visit? Sam Guha and Tim Uncle can tell us.
We met the old man and his 2 wild young grandchildren on Shialda station where they were sleeping rough. They had no home, they had nothing. And we said that we were desperately trying to get his grandchildren into Future Hope. Well, one of our alumni has now found him a place to stay in a simple slum. And we will pay for that. And I'm meeting him in the next few days to get him into the house. It's not very far from Future Hope. We hope that he will settle there with his 2 granddaughters and maybe even his daughter.
Well, one girl is 3 years old. I cannot take her here. We take only from 6. And the other one was 5. So I just give some practical advice as to where they can go and find a solution. Now, we have a good network, not only of Future Hope. I know most of the other NGOs and all the government bodies and some centers, which can support by keeping the children or giving them food or giving a job, a little job. So I try to recommend that. And I say you can go and try. You can take my name as a reference, no problem. But ultimately it's their choice whether they want to take you or not. So I believe in the practicality of the whole thing and not just raise hopes for them or things that we cannot do really, Yeah, that is injustice to them.
We wish the family well, and perhaps one day we'll see the girls at Future Hope. As Erica and Dr. Sarkar know all too well, one's health is paramount.
So the real issues in the lower sections of the communities is TB.
Yes.
That you said to me the other day, that's endemic.
Endemic. It's endemic.
Yeah. Then we've got a lot of malaria.
You see, this time malaria has taken a backseat compared to dengue. They're more the mosquito borne.
Yeah.
We have had malaria and dengue, but this time the dengue this thing was much higher than malaria.
What about mental health?
Mental health is important. Mental health is very important. They're from the streets. Their abuse potential is very high. Mental, physical. Some things, always leave a mark on the children. But children are very easy to change. If you give them a good, healthy upbringing, it might be possible to wipe off their past scars.
So we have a counsellor in the school, we've got a counsellor in each of the homes, and every single child in Future Hope has very easy access to them and are being seen, being heard, being listened to. And the medical team works closely with the counsellors just to make sure that the right messages go to the house parents, to the teachers, to the special needs teachers, anyone who provides that care to the children to then get to holistic care.
Having Erica come was fantastic because she brought that professional in-house medical so that all the smaller stuff could be dealt. Obviously, if it was serious, we'd have to take the children to the doctors. I mean, we were in and out of the doctor the whole time. Broken legs and all sorts of disease. And we got to the stage, and then Erica, I think, set up a program of then taking the children to have a medical examination, which, of course, is a sensible thing to do when they've come off the street and had so many years of malnutrition and all the rest of it. I mean, if you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything. So she really started again to set up more of a program and formalise things and put it on a more professional footing.
I remember a child who Tim and I picked off the street. He was incredibly ill. We couldn't pick him up. He was screaming in pain, was lying in his own vomit. We very, very gently took him to our clinic and did the initial checkups. We established rheumatic fever, which basically means a very long-term treatment with antibiotics. I remember you giving him injections with huge needles, and I had to make sure that the child was all right and could cope with it. You had to make sure that each month, I think we had to give it each month. It was a real struggle. And we did that for years. And to get that youngster out of treatment, and I think he is an ethical hacker now with an international company, earning a good salary. He recently got married, and he's got a whole future in front of him. That young man would have died if we had not picked him up that night off the streets.
As our tour of Future Hope's medical unit comes to an end, Dr. Sarkar has a perfect summary.
It's rewarding, and you know what? To see a child grow from nothing into something, or you put a seed and it becomes a good plant, the happiness that you can derive. You know, when you see a small girl who was in class 5 now become a lawyer, or somebody who has actually gone into a 5-star hotel and working as a chef, it's amazing. I'm seeing it first and happening in front of my eyes. That's what I think everyone in future should be proud of. The teachers, the office, it's a combined work. It's not any one particular thing, but I think it's a combined thing that gives a child a proper growth platform to grow.
Next time.
These children, they're going to play in a tournament on Saturday. There'll be a 3 or 4 kilometre walk to get to the bus stop, more than an hour on the bus to the ground, and it just shows their motivation to come and play. Nothing will stop them from coming to play, nothing.
The power of sport to harness all that energy from the streets. If you want to join the Future Hope journey, please visit futurehope.net. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. It really makes a big difference. My name's Nikhat Khatun. Thanks for listening.